going, brother Josh? The question I had was I remember you saying before that not all pride was like a sinful type of pride.
Correct.
I was hoping that you expound on that.
Yes, like even in today's language, when we talk about pride, and Paul talked about this, he talked about boasting in the Lord, right? Even in today's language, though, when you say you're like, if I were to tell Dre, like for instance, like the way Kevin J just said, he liked the way Dre handled that situation. If I were to tell Dre, I'm proud of him for how he handled that situation, is that sinful pride in your opinion?
No.
If your child graduates from high school with honors and you tell him, son, I'm proud of you, is that sinful pride?
No.
Though that's the type of pride I was talking about when I said not all pride is sinful. And the Bible talks about that kind of pride being good, and it usually compares it as opposed to shame. Like how a good son will bring honor. The Bible usually calls it honor, but it says a bad child will bring shame, right? And Paul gets into this about him boasting in the Lord and things of that nature. That's the good kind of pride, you know, proud of something righteous. You understand?
Okay. So if I was to have like a son and he was like became like an NBA player, and I would go around, talking to people about my son, like, look what my son could do. I'm so proud of him. They ain't got nothing on him. Would that still be okay?
As long as you're not doing it in a conceited way. I mean, if your son is actually all that on that court, then your son all that on that court. See, the Bible said that we're allowed to praise another person for what they're doing. See, remember that scripture where he says that let another man praise you and not your own mouth? Remember that verse in Proverbs?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what you would be doing. The Bible don't say it's wrong for us to do that. If I'm praising Isaiah AC, I said, yo, man, Isaiah don't came a long way, man. I remember this dude didn't know no scripture, and now he doing lessons, Bible studies, man. I'm proud of him, man. Isaiah, the truth. That's no different from you talking about your son in the NBA, right?
Yeah.
You're just complimenting him as a father, right? Now, if you walking around saying all this stuff about yourself, you follow what I'm saying?
Then that's bad.
That's bad. You don't supposed to be bigging yourself up like that. But we can exalt each other. Bible tells us that. That's why I always exalt my brothers. I always do that, and they exalt me. I get them. I get them. They props, and they give me mine. I'm gonna push you to the moon because I appreciate you. Just like I appreciate you, Isaiah. Like, you made a conscious decision to keep tuning in every week after you learned about me, right?
Yeah.
And you're studying and you're learning and you're improving. You even told me, man, I'm learning a lot. If I were to say, man, I'm proud of Isaiah, man, he's really getting into this. That's not a sinful pride. That's like a honorific kind of pride. You follow what I'm saying? As opposed to shame. You follow what I'm saying? And I can do a lesson on that, proving that concept.
Okay, thank you. Oh, yeah. And like, okay, so like, say LeBron was to be like, say he was like not hyping himself up, but he was, kind of giving himself his own flowers. Even though he's like capable of doing what he's claiming, would that still be like praise out of his mouth? That would be a sin.
If he's praising himself, if he's like, if y'all just asking about, if say somebody in an interview just said, LeBron, such and such, and say they're better than you, what's your response to that? And he just started comparing his stats to theirs and say, in my opinion, by my stats, I think I'm better than them. That's not him praising himself. He's just stating the facts based on the information. But if he walking around saying, yeah, how Muhammad Ali used to be, I'm the greatest of all time. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Stuff like that, that would be wrong because you're glorifying yourself. You just stating your resume in a non-braggart way is not you glorifying yourself. You're just stating your resume. It's a difference between stating your resume and bigging yourself up. You go to a job interview, they're going to ask about your past job history. If you just sitting up there saying, well, I was this for 5 years at this job, I was the lead man on this job, I was the head of surgery on this job, and you just listing your stuff because they ask you, But if you sit up there, you could be doing the same thing. You could be listing your resume. I was the lead of this job, man. Nobody could touch me, man. You know what I'm saying? Everybody was looking up to me. You still think you still stay in your resume, but you're doing it in a braggart kind of way, like you're bigging yourself up. That's what we don't want to do. And sometimes people will try to make you think just because you're listing your credentials, you're bragging about yourself. No, I'm just listing my qualifications and credentials. I'm not bragging about myself. You follow what I'm saying? That's not what I'm doing. You go get a credit report and they say you qualified to get a loan on a house, right? That don't mean your credit report is bragging. It's just the credentials that you have, right?
Yeah.
That's all it is. So,
Okay.
just be mindful of it, what you're doing, make sure we've all bragged on ourselves before. I mean, that's human nature, but you don't want to make a habit out of doing something like that because now you're exalting yourself. And if you do that, Most High gonna humble you.
Yeah, like Nebuchadnezzar.
Oh, yeah. Good example. Oh, yeah.
I got another question.
Okay.
When Paul was talking about to the Jew, I'm a Jew, and then etc. stuff like that, was he talking about, like, I'm gonna give an example. Like, if I was to want to spread the gospel to like
when he said like to the Gentiles, I became as Gentiles and stuff like that. When he was saying that, he was just talking about meeting people on their level. That's all that meant. He wasn't saying that he became as a Gentile, because that would mean that he became a pagan and started worshiping pagan gods, because that's what Gentiles meant in the first century. It meant people who did not know about the God of Israel and was pagans and worshiping idols. So he didn't mean that I became as them in the sense of practicing what they practice. So when he said he became all things to gain all men, that's what he said. It just simply meant he met them on their level. That's all it meant.
I had interpreted it to be like he would like educate himself on like their culture. Like, if I was to like want to spread the gospel to like a football jockey, I try to use like sports terms to better help them understand it.
That's the same thing as saying you're meeting them on their level. You can't meet somebody on their level if you don't know anything about their background.
Okay, thank you. That's why I was wondering.
Yeah, so it's still saying the same thing. Only thing you just doing is just taking a step further on how he went about doing it. But it's still saying the same thing.
Okay. Can I ask one more question, or am I on limit today?
Okay, go ahead.
Do Christians like have to obey the laws of their country?
Yes. Unless the laws contradict the laws of the Most High.
Okay, so like if I was to like jaywalk in the USA, that would be a sin, right?
If you're deliberately doing it, yeah, you want to avoid that. Yes, I'm not saying you'll go to hell for that, but you're supposed to make a concentrated effort to not break any of the laws of the land. That's what Paul taught. That's what Jesus taught. That's what Peter taught.
Okay. Now, say I was to drink wine as a minor on the Passover in the USA, would that be a sin?
Which one has higher rank? The commandment to take the Passover wine or the underage drinking law?
Passover wine.
So which one would you do?
The Passover wine.
Exactly. See, if God commands you to do something in the Bible, commands, and the law says, well, technically you can't do that, then you do what God commands. You follow what I'm saying? I'm not going to tell. Now, I'm not saying that you get an underage drink child and you get them a whole cup. The Bible never says how much they need to drink. You feel me? Like, I've given my son wine to drink on the Passover from as long as I can remember. But you know the little mouthwash cups or the little Pepto-Bismol clear plastic cups? I'll give him like that amount to drink. You can give him a spoonful of it. Like, like cough syrup, you get like a spoonful of the wine. There you go. It never says how much you got to drink. A sip. That's it. Let me ask you a question. How many people were sitting at the Passover supper with Jesus?
A lot. I don't know the specific number.
You know the Last Supper, his disciples. How many people is that?
12.
Plus who?
Him.
So how many people is that now?
13.
And they passed around how many cups?
1.
How much wine do you think they could have possibly drank if all of them sharing 1 cup?
Not too much.
Exactly. We got 12 people now from a cup, which on average it was like the size of like what we would call a champagne glass or a chalice. That's what they called it, right? If you look at any of the ancient artifacts, it was like about the size of a champagne glass. I've drank alcohol out of a champagne glass before, right? You split that between 12 people, you won't even get a buzz. You agree?
Yeah, I agree.
Right? So they weren't drinking that much wine if they all passing around the same cup. They couldn't have been drinking that much wine. See, I get real technical now. That's 13 people. That means you probably getting a mouthful, a swallow tops. Your turn. Your turn. Your turn. You know, just enough to squishing around like some mouthwash. That's about as much as you getting from 12, 13 people drinking from 1 cup of wine. It didn't say they had a bottle. It said a cup. And it don't mention nothing about nobody refilling either. I'm just saying.
I only took like a sip, like not even a mouthful, but like a sip.
That's what I'm saying. Too? You know what I'm saying? A sip. And that's all they could have got. If you got 13 people in 1 cup that big, all you getting about a sip. Make sense?
All right, brother. Yeah.
Praise God.
Appreciate you for sharing your knowledge with me.
No problem, man.
All right. Peace be with you.
You
and
too,
everybody
bro.
else on stage.
You too. And then
God
we got
bless you, bro.